Hi everyone, I'm S and welcome to my creative channel. So today I am speaking to my lefties who want to get into hand lettering / engraving, and the two simultaneously go great together, but they are two independent skills of their own. With that in mind, being a lefty, certain things can be extremely challenging. And I, as a fellow lefty, have not giving up, and this is a new skill that I want to incorporate into my craft business, and I figured I can help those along the way who feel because they are left-handed that it's uncomfortable, it's too difficult, there's not enough resources, all that jazz. And I definitely have ran into that. So excuse me, I have my phone. And I just kind of want to go through some of the things that have helped me evolved in my hand lettering. And then I've upgraded to now engraving on hard surfaces that are actually very difficult. So if you guys don't know, my name is S and I own a candle business. And my candle business has been up and down for the past 2 years. I haven't really found anything that made my business stand out. And I've tried everything. I've tried copying others, I've tried mimicking others, but nothing was original, nothing was mine. Up until I fell in love with engraving. So engraving was a whole other skill I had to teach myself, and I had to get a few materials to begin. But before I started, I was all over the place, as I do with many of my new craft journeys, but I realized I took a step back and I wanted to make sure that I learned both of these skills simultaneously, but slowly, and try to master them. So I'm not at full mastery yet, but I figured I'm just a little bit ahead of some people, and maybe I can just showcase some of my work and give you guys some tips to navigate this new craft journey. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is tools. Now, I've been a lefty my entire life, and I've never once used a left-handed scissor, a left-handed whatever, a left-handed cup, I just never used those things. I've just adjusted and tried to use right-handed tools in my left hand, which I know is a bit crazy, but I just gotten used to it. And I took the same approach with hand lettering and engraving, and bought all the tools that everyone else is using. I didn't want to complicate this process of learning, because what I needed to change was just how I positioned my hand to this skill. For starting, in order to engrave on a surface, you need to be able to outline. I'm not a freehand, and I don't advise anybody doing freehand engraving unless you are a master at it and you completely trust your hand. I am not there yet, so I have my trusty markers. These are the chalk markers that I love so much. They do run out, but I wouldn't say run out, but they do dry out. So I always shake them a bit, all of them, before I use them, and I just keep practicing. And I always practice whether I'm doing my hand lettering calligraphy. I always practice on some art paper. I don't use these markers because they're not meant for that. These are for the surfaces that you're going to be using, that you're going to actually be engraving on. But for my hand lettering, or if usually when I'm engraving something, I'm usually doing it in the fancy hand lettering, right? Before I started practicing the alphabet in hand lettering, and I started to use all different types of books that I purchased on Amazon, which, I don't know, you just need one. I would say there was one book in particular that I really liked. Let me see if I can grab it. This book was great, and it had many different styles, many different types of calligraphy that I wanted to practice, and I'm still getting to know my style. So that was the first purchase I got, I got this book in addition to a million others that I don't use right now, but every day I'm trying to do a little bit of hand lettering to perfect. And the only way you're going to get better at this is obviously if you practice. The next thing I got was my tools for engraving. So at first I started to use a nail bit with the nail filing system. It wasn't as strong, and I had some old jars that I was practicing on, so it kind of like, it made sense to not use such good stuff in the beginning. Then I kind of upgraded to this. I just bought it off Amazon. It's a handheld engraving kit, and it comes with these little bits. It's stronger than the nail kit, but it's not the best one out there, and I did that purposely. I wasn't too sure if this was sticking, but it seems like it is. So in the future, I would say within the next 3 months, I'll continue to practice, and then I will take my engraving skills up a notch. But I like it, it's small, it's dainty, and I kind of hold it like a pen. And I use my engraving buffs. These things they weren't so expensive. I used 2 different kinds. I bought them all on Amazon. And these are to basically highlight whatever you've engraved. So rule of thumb, I only engrave on glass, and these only work on glass, and I had to learn the hard way when I got it all over my matte lids, my matte candles. Yeah, it's not for that. I don't know where to find some type of rub metallic finish that works on matte surfaces. If you guys know, let me know. I would love that. But I have these beautiful matte black candles that I've engraved, and I can't use any of the gold or silver finish because it gets all over the candle and it's just a mess. So I'm still working on that jar because I would love it. It engraves beautifully, but it does not, you can't highlight your engraving, so it kind of looks a little funky, but it's actually a little weird, but it's actually a little pretty. So it was like a mistake that I kind of like, that I figured out. Next, you want to establish what exactly are you engraving on. I see a lot of beautiful engravings on perfumes. I will never do that. That is just not, I don't even know how these women are doing it, to be honest. But I don't engrave on perfumes. I only engrave right now on just my spray bottles that I've made, and also on these candle bottles. So I love candles, and I want to incorporate the both of them. So I feel like it is a more difficult surface to engrave on, especially as a left-hander. And to record yourself engraving too is very, very difficult when you're left-handed. You need to have the perfect stand, the perfect angle, and to make sure when you're recording that your left hand isn't covering what you're doing. So that goes into my next point, which is adjusting your workspace. So I have several workspaces all around my house, and I just kind of figure out what is the most comfortable way to relax my elbow and my pinky on my left hand on my left side. So if you can find any space like that, that's maybe a large table, maybe, you know, somewhere on your desk, I don't know. I've worked in several different places, but the best place for me is I like to hold my item, and I like to make sure that I'm leaning somehow, and I just engrave. And it's fun for me that way, and it's actually a bit more relaxing. And I always go very, very slow, especially in the beginning. I've learned another mistake was I turned up my bit all the way. I turned up my engraving tool all the way up, and I was engraving fast and hard, and I couldn't gain control. With practice, you'll get better at it, but I realized that it's just much better to start off slow and to have your elbow rested. Just make sure your camera is on the correct side, because I've recorded plenty of times where my elbow and my hand were in the way, and it wasn't content I was able to use. So the way to practice holding your tool is you want to make sure that if this tool doesn't feel good, try another one. I've just got lucky that I'm like, I like to force myself into liking things, into adjusting to things. And I just happen to get used to this. And usually with these sets, they come with a million different sizes, bits that you could switch in and out of and see which one works for you. You also, as a left-hander, loosening the grip is very important. But you have to know when to press hard when you're going down and when to press light when you're going up. And when you're hand lettering, it's great on paper, but when you transfer it to the jar, it can be, or the hard surface, it can be quite difficult, but it isn't that difficult that you can't learn it. So I like to start off with simple hand lettering and just keep practicing and practicing, and then I narrowed it down to different capitalizations that I like. I like the way the letter K is. I like the way the letter H is. I put my own spin on the letter B. Letter B is like my favorite. And then I kind of narrowed down the other styles that I like. Do I like to dip lower with certain letters? Do I like everything to be straight? Do I like things to be on an angle? And you're only gonna know this if you just practice more. So another thing that I'm entering is actually creating symbols and different shapes. I started drawing a little cat. I have 3 cats. You can see one is like knocked out. Peppy. I don't even know if you guys could see her. Peppy! Here she is. My cats drive me crazy, but they are my family. So I've been drawing like cat because I want to engrave it on a candle and make a really beautiful candle for my cat lovers. So there's that. And it took me a while to get comfortable with that. I had to draw out, keep drawing this cat. And now that I've drawn, I'm gonna draw it now on the jar. And after I draw it on the jar the way that it needs to be, then I go in and start engraving. And there's no turning back if you make a mistake. You could always kind of tweak it a little, but if you make a grand mistake, it's kind of like over for that. So start simple and then gradually experiment. If you like different type of shapes, different lettering, if you see things on Instagram and you're like, I can never, trust me, you can. It's a series of strokes that you need to master that connect well, and then you don't want to copy everyone else. You want to create your own little design. So my last thing is to be patient and to be consistent. I know it's cliche, but I'm the queen of cliches by now. What I would say is, have fun. Know that this is a new skill, and if you practice every day somehow. I always have my notebook on me. I always have like markers on me. I have like a bag full of my markers, my calligraphy pens, my gels, everything. And I always try to, in my downtime, have some fun and just try to teach myself something new. So if you're left-handed and you want to create beautiful lettering, don't give up. You just have to create a profile, create a plan for yourself and what you want to do with it. If this is something you just want to do for fun, I highly recommend. It's very relaxing. If you're looking for something that's a bit stress-free and creative, this is a great skill to get into. And if you want to do hand engraving, it's a bit more difficult, but it's also something that you can have fun with, because look how cute these things are. It's your own little masterpiece. So I hope these tips were helpful. If you're left-handed, just remember, you just gotta work a little bit harder. And once you get it, things will stick. And I'm reading a book right now called Make It Stick. And it just talks about how you don't want to overload yourself. Do the project, step away from it for a couple of days, and then enter back. And you remember things better that way. So stay tuned for my next video, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Bye-bye now.